All right, so it's the Historic Preservation Commission meeting of Decatur, Alabama, May 13th, 2021. We have a slight change in our agenda order tonight because our chair is running late, so we're going to have John Godwin take over until he gets here. We also have some change in the order of things. In the business order, the Delano Park signage pylon has been moved up to number 1. Number 2 is the fence request for Sherman Street. The Delano Park ball field improvements has been moved to a board briefing with the full vote to be next month. And I think everything else is in the same order. So we will start on approval of the April 8th, 2021 minutes. Has everyone reviewed them?
So moved.
Motion by Bill, second by Lynn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then we get to the fun part tonight. The mayor is sorry he could not be here because he was going to present awards. We have Preservation Month awards. We love May because May is Historic Preservation Month, and we had so many wonderful things in the city this last year. And some people that really stepped up. Not everyone is probably aware of this, but Old State Bank, there was a fire in the kitchen several weeks ago. And if it had not been for some people that stepped in and called it, immediately responded, the kitchen building would have gone up and it would have been, right behind the actual bank. So it could have been so dangerous. So for everyone that called and stopped and said, wait, something's not right, we love all of you. Thank you, because there were lots of people. I'm not sure everyone's here, but I will call out names. Brad McWhorter? Nope. Debbie Barton? Becky Barton? I'll say cheese and I'll put you on a Are you excited? Okay. We'll get John in the background. Thank you so much. Because that is the most iconic building, and we would have been very upset if it had caught on fire. We also have homeowners that have just been working exceptionally hard on some of these houses within the district. Some of these houses are just, they're sort of almost at that tipping point, and you wait, and if it's on your block, you're just kind of hoping someone gets it and they do the right thing. And this is a case where the right people got the right house, and they have just been working nonstop on it. And this is Donna and Michael Rogers. Jackson. We love this house.
We love this house.
I'm so glad. Thank you. So thank you so much. I will get. All right. I'll tell you what. I'll make your picture small and the house picture big. So we do a bigger picture. Thank you so much. And then another house that people just worked so hard on, the Lyerleys. They could not be here. I just got a text from this afternoon. They had one where they had a fire, and they literally were at the point where they could have demolished with the HPC's blessing and do something new, because it had reached the point. I think the saddest thing is when I was there and I was looking through it with them, and there was their poor front door, which was not salvageable, unfortunately. But they absolutely took that as an opportunity that they were going to rebuild, and they were going to rebuild it the same, and they spent so much time on the phone with me. They were going to salvage yards, and we were like, okay, so we found a door, and it's the right size. Here's a picture, can we get it now? And so I'm like, okay, hold on, let me check sizes and stuff. And so they worked so hard on that. So we're really proud, and I will get that to them later this week. But the fact that they were able to bring that house back is huge. And then the last one we have is for Historic Decatur Association. Brenda.
Oh,
So those wonderful signs that you have seen all through the district, those really big, beautiful signs. The Historic Decatur Association worked for years on the fundraising and the grant matching, but Brenda in particular, so she gets to take this on behalf of them. We were trying to keep it a surprise.
It was.
Good.
I was going to have to present something tonight.
See, we have it all.
Y'all tricked me together. Okay, yeah, you two, because you know on the board, so you gotta smile.
She tricked me.
She did. Well, see, you're in there because she tricked you. So. Thank you, ladies.
And just as a non-profit that partners with the city, y'all's work is really important, and we're very grateful for it. And I know in particular, I mean, Brenda was honored. It was this, okay, I put in that request for these signs, and it's been this many weeks, and I don't see those signs up. And so then she'd get hold of me, and I'm like, okay, hold on, let me track down Park and Rec and see where the signs are. And it was a lot of time on her end, and so we're very appreciative of that.
A lot of time on a lot of people's end, and we couldn't have done it without the membership of the Historic Decatur neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Could not have done this, and the city council and the HBC.
Thank you. And thank y'all for your leadership on this one. It's greatly appreciated. So thank you. And now we've got to come up with really great projects for next year. So start looking in your neighborhoods. Let me know what you were seeing and how it is going. So we're going to move on into the full agenda now. And fast track COAs since our last meeting. 417 Line Street.
Whoops, here comes.
Aha. Hey, John. You take over now.
Yeah, all right.
417 Line Street. That was replacing non-historic rear steps and adding some brick landscape elements. 521 Oak Street, which was in-kind replacement of porte cochere ceiling beadboard. 618 Sherman, that's replacing a pea gravel driveway with flagstone pavers and some in-kind repair for porch elements that were rotting. 424 Vine Street, that's a full front porch deck replacement. It's a non-historic porch and the decking is rotting. 508 8th Street, that's the addition of movable shutters to a non-historic rear porch on the side elevations. And on our first COA, find it in here. Is Delano Park Conservancy, and Barbara Kelly is going to speak once I get through the administrative portion of this, if you have questions. Delano Park has been working on upgrading visitor experiences, and they're working on that 2003 approved master plan. And so the Conservancy has secured funding from the state to provide a signage pylon near the 8th Avenue entrance, marking the entrance to the main trail on the 8th sort of Somerville Avenue side of the park. And this is a phase 1 design with additional hardscaping and landscaping to come in future phases. The action requested on this is a new pylon that's going to match the one at 6, and it's going to have interpretive signage. And so you see here on this is sort of the initial design of the pylon. The signage would be on this section and this section. This is an aerial of the park, so here's the bathhouse, there's the splash pad. This is about where they're thinking it will go. These elements here are not in the park. This is part of sort of a conceptual with what they might be doing eventually, but right now we're just looking at the pylon. So for new construction, the design review guidelines, the height should be compatible with historic structures in the surrounding area. For design, it should be architectural compatible, but should not seek to replicate historic designs. For materials, it should be compatible with adjacent historic structures in terms of composition, texture, finish of materials, design. For staff findings, HPC guidelines are really designed for the residential structures more than for the park itself, but the proposed pylon meets the standards for new infill in being respectful to the historic view shed and the massing and the materials that they are looking at. And if y'all have any questions, Barbara is the point person because she has walked through that park multiple times with me on this as we've looked through it. You can, I mean, I don't know if y'all have questions or you're just ready to,
I have a question.
Yeah.
So there's an existing monument on the corner, right? There's a, I mean, on the site plan, it's in the, where the end of the serpentine wall?
It's right here.
Okay. And so,
And let me kind of explain. We are trying to develop an arboretum in the park, and we wanted an entrance to that arboretum. And that corner was just a mess with all the gravel after they filled the ditch. So we started out with a plan. An architect in Nashville did a plan, and it was a pretty grand plan of a big entrance, well, almost a building that was about 6 feet deep with benches. And then we asked for the construction drawings for that, and we got back this very immense form that I took to Caroline, and we already had the construction drawings, and it was 15 feet tall. And she said that it would not work in that spot because it would really take away from all the historic structures on the site. And it was too massive, and it really only related maybe to Fort Decatur. I mean, it was the only other building that had a flat roof was Fort Decatur. This had a flat top. So we started over and trying to figure out what we could do that wouldn't take away from the rest of the park, but yet give us an opportunity to invite people into the Arboretum. So we started thinking about public art, and we talked to a sculptor about doing some kind of native flora and fauna. And we wanted the same kind of bronze sculpture like you see in Central Park that had all the different animals and the different native flora. You can see that on the terrace, the Bethesda Terrace, and that's what we wanted. But when we got the price back, it was like $150,000 or something crazy. So we have narrowed it down to one animal in bas relief and some other signage explaining about the native flora and fauna of Alabama. So that's where we are, and we can't do the whole corner like we had planned. We have a grant to begin this, a $50,000 grant, but to do this corner, we have to know what's going to happen on Prospect Drive and Gordon Drive. And right now, we're in transition. They're talking about one-way streets. We don't even know which direction they're going to go. We don't know if they're taking out that red light. We don't know what we're going to be doing. So we're doing this in phases. Plus, there's all sorts of problems here. This drops off on the north side. It's going to have a retaining wall. All sorts of things that aren't in what construction drawings we received. They totally didn't address all those situations. So we thought it's best to go on and do phase one, which would just be the pylon with extensions like on 6th Avenue. That gives us an opportunity to put interpretive signage here, interpretive signage here, and it doesn't create a place where people can hide, and we feel like it's just safer and much smaller. It's more like 12 feet tall, and it's not 15 feet tall, and it's not going to take away from the splash pad. It's not going to take away from the rest. So we want, we're hoping that this will be an acceptable alternative to the big sign that you walk through. It was going to be a big, almost like a triumphal arch looking thing. It was way too grand for the park. So this is our attempt to do something that we know that will work, that won't take away. And it'll be in the same stone as 6th Avenue sign. We've had real good luck using that template because we've had some of the worst stonemasons come with different grants. And as long as we show them this template of the stone, I mean, give them an example, they do it, even though they don't have much experience. But if you don't give them the example, it is scary what you come up with. So this is our plan. This is our hope. So it's basically sandstone with a limestone cap, and perhaps the bronze, if we can make it so it's not easily damaged.
So is that a medallion or?
It's a
wreath?
medallion that goes in.
Uh-huh.
The first medallion, we wanted was, a long rectangular medallion. We don't really want a sign because we've got like you said, we've got a sign on the corner that says Delano Park. This sign is not to say Delano Park, it's gonna be an interpretive sign. And it's just gonna be, developed as an interpretive sign. So we're not exactly sure yet. We haven't gotten to the point of doing the panels. But we just wanted permission to proceed. We've also got to put a new tree in the area where oh, here we go. This is really good. You see, right here, the tree no longer exists. It got cut down. So this made a big gully right here. I mean, not a gully, but it goes way down. So to make a path here, you're going to have to really do some work. And Caroline, she came to the site and she pointed out things I'd never thought about. She said, look how you're all cluttered up. You've got a directional sign here, you've got the Riverwild sign there, you've got a little, you can't see here, but there's a Trail of History sign, there's way too much. And I realized what a jumble it was and how we had to clean up that corner. So it's going to all be rearranged. And those things are going to be shifted so that won't be so much going on at one place. And the sign will go back here. Not sign, I call it a sign, but it's the interpretive structure will go back here. And this will be moved over, and this will be moved over, and the Trail of History sign will be moved to the opposite side of the street so that we won't have so much going on. That's the plan, just to introduce the Arboretum and create an entrance for the trail. Any questions? Other questions?
So go back to the little perspective sketch. So that's what's going to go there? That? Right
To
there?
this,
Yes.
No, I'm talking about the
the bird's
little
eye?
perspective. That's it?
Are you talking about this?
No, I'm talking about the big
Yes.
drawing, yeah.
Yes. That, which may adjust a little, this may be a little taller, but I mean, that's basically it. The reason this is it's just because we have tried it before and it worked. And.
So which way would the medallion be facing? Toward
8th Avenue, 8th
Eighth
Avenue,
Avenue.
8th Avenue. And this would be parallel to 8th Avenue. And this extension goes out to the back, and it would definitely have an interpretive thing on it about the flora and fauna. This might have something else on it, and I wish and hope, and there may be a place to put a quote on it. That's one thing the donor really wanted was a quote about Alabama or about Decatur. So that's what I'm hoping we'll find the right quote. It won't say Delano Park. It'll just be something to do with the Arboretum and or with the native plants and just the Tennessee River. That's the main theme. Thank you.
Okay, so are there any other questions, comments?
So we are voting to do what? To approve it? Okay.
All right, so do I have a motion to approve the design as submitted, or?
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Barbara, I will get that signed COA out tomorrow morning and CC the building department on it for you. Let's see. Oh, the sign-in sheet, I don't see it. I think it vanished. Is it around? Aha, let me grab that. Next up is COA for 410 Sherman Street. That's Greenhall, I think. so this is the house. It's been painted a different color. It's blue now, but that's the best photo I had on file. And their existing fence, as you probably noticed, is failing. So it's kind of like leaning precipitously, sort of rotting. Now, generally, I handle fast tracks on fences. The reason I didn't on this one is because it's a style that I haven't seen come in front of the commission yet. So I couldn't find any sort of a administrative paperwork to guide me on this one. So they wanted a horizontal slat fence on this. So the majority of the fence is behind the house. So it's the side and the alley, and there's just going to be a small portion, and you can sort of, this right here is the existing fence that you see from the front. So this is really the only portion that you're going to see from the front. The question for the commission is really, is this considered a primary vantage or not? Because your standards address primary vantages. So they want this double ladder style contemporary fence, and it's 6 foot high wood in this exact same location as the existing fence. And the existing fence is located within HPC standards and guidelines. The city's design review guidelines on this, under fencing, it lists brick, chain link, wood, plank, and other wood fences are generally located at a secondary street vantage. And under staff findings, the guidelines do not address contemporary horizontal fence design. And I reached out to other commission staff and other municipalities to see how this request is handled in other municipalities. And it was a wide range of options, from full approval to allowing side and rear only, but the front panel had to be something different, to sticking with more traditional designs. So I need the commission to sort of think through what they feel is in the best interest of the historic district and the precedent that would set with other fences on what you would like.
Is this gonna be painted, or is it just gonna be?
I will let the applicants, you can come on up and answer any questions they've got, and that way they get you on the mic so that they can hear you.
Caroline, could you blow up that, the photo where we could see how much would be on the primary vantage there from the street?
Yeah, let's see. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So that's about, how much of that to the side, how many feet would that be, do you think?
I think it's roughly like 6 feet or so. to the
Okay.
side.
Yeah. There's a gate portion of it,
Yeah, right.
and then the fence.
Okay.
just way back there on
Yeah.
that side.
So it's pretty far back. Is this gonna be in the same place?
It will be, and it'll be a fence, or it'll be a gate as well. It's probably 3/4 back from the front of the house.
Okay.
Are you going to paint it, or is it going to remain?
It's going to be a stain. We would like to do a semi-transparent stain.
What kind of wood?
I believe pine.
So what we're talking about is if it were a 6 foot dog-eared like it have now, you would have approved it. But y'all are looking for a horizontal slat.
Yes, sir.
That's why we're looking at it. Because, I imagine, once we make a decision like this, that's a pretty significant design decision for the district,
And it just needs to be, clear if you, either way, if you are approving it or not approving it, or approving it for partial but not all, sort of laying out precedent on what I can do in future administrative reviews so that I know when people call on me. And so if you decide yes, but you're thinking we would only do it here because it's a very small amount, then that's telling me if someone else comes with one and they want it further up in a large amount, that I have to come back in front of the commission, or it sort of sets that up so that it's clear as to why.
Are they doing the shadow box? Are you doing it like the picture that you presented?
So for the fence part, it'll probably look something more like that, I would assume. I haven't honestly thought about the gate part yet.
Well, I'm talking about, go back to your pictures, like that picture right there. I guess technically that would be a vertical shadow box. The one that you got up there. Caroline?
This one here?
I don't know, I can't see it. 'Cause
Yeah, they're the same on
Yeah.
both monitors.
And it looks like the one that they have shown is not a shadow box.
Slats.
So they didn't have a specific image for gates, so I pulled a couple.
Well, I'm
in
not
terms
talking
of
about the gate, I'm talking
options.
about the fence
The
panel.
fence, what they showed me themselves was this, the shadow box. So that's what they submitted, was a shadow box. Yes.
Okay.
And I have other images of it just to show commissioners, this is what it looks like when it's painted. Here's one unpainted.
They're not going to paint it, so it's not going to show up that much, and we've got 6 feet on the front. Now, I think I might have more of an issue if it was, you know, around, like, the length of my fence on Vine Street. Maybe I
And-
would have more of an issue, but.
And
the
is that
fact-
6 feet a gate as well, or is that gonna be just
The,
fence?
the gate currently is roughly, I would say, 3 or 4 feet wide, and then another 3 or 4 feet of actual fence.
But it would be on that, when we say the primary advantage from the street, the gate would be there.
It would.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we kinda need to know what the gate design would be, I suppose. That's what you were,
If we could, we would want to keep it probably similar to the fence, so a shadow
Similar to the
box look as well,
Okay.
if that's possible.
You're gonna have every kid in the neighborhood climbing over it.
I'm just throwing back
that's a
over.
real consideration.
I mean, my feeling is for that amount, I don't have a real problem with it. Is your landscaping gonna remain the same? I know it's an older picture in your house.
Oh,
You have a bush on that side?
yeah, so, this bigger bush here is still there. These smaller bushes in the front are gone, and this bigger bush is still here as well. So the bigger bush where the fence would be is still there, matching these big, it looks like this big one up front.
Which side is the turf on?
The turf is on the side of the fence, or on the side of the gate, on the left side.
Because we've got fence on both sides of the house, right?
We do.
Okay. I mean, in my opinion, a 6-foot dog ear has just been the by default, the fence that you primarily see. Does that make it any more appropriate than what they're asking for? I don't think so.
Especially in the case with such limited advantage here and setback as far as it does. Now, I don't know if we want to make that many hoops for you to have to jump through, you know, are we allowing it, or are we not allowing it? But, I mean,
Well, but, you know, if we're gonna do this, then the street vantage needs to be a vertical, whatever, just like everywhere else. Or, you know, if we were to go in there and allow a different type of fence, then, you know, somebody's gonna come in here that has a 20-foot vantage, and they're gonna want that on the front too.
sure, that's what
And
I'm.
so, you know, I guess I'm more on the lines of if,
Keeping it clean, allow it or not.
well, you either allow it or you don't. Yeah, yeah.
I think there's a big difference, though, in it being recessed or being at the vantage point. I'm in favor of it because of that, but I wouldn't be in favor of it if the size changed or the
I think
recessed.
a really long length of it could look strange.
How close are your posts gonna be?
We're thinking 6 foot apart.
Are you building it or somebody
I was
else?
going to, yes, sir.
Okay.
If I remember correctly from the site visit and what I'm seeing here, so here's your front gable and there's your porch. That fence attaches behind the cross gable on the house, right? So you have a side portion here, and that fence is even behind that. So it could be one where the commission says, in short runs of less than 10 feet behind, if you want to clarify, what that means, like behind. So in this case, it's on like the back 20% of the house, maybe, like 80% of the house is in front.
Yeah, I would say roughly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to give me, and then that means if I have more come in front of me, if I feel like they're very similar to this, I can administratively approve. If I feel they're different, I can bring them back to the commission for review.
That's what I'd be most comfortable with.
There's not enough of it
Say
to
that
take away
again.
from the character.
What you're saying is the cleanest, most logical thing. But what I'm saying and what Rebecca's saying, I think, is that, great long lines of this on the principal vantage might change my mind. If someone came along with 50 feet of fence like this in the middle of the district,
Well, the 6-foot dog-eared is about the cheapest fence you could possibly get.
Yeah,
And that's why you see it, so that's why it's prevalent in the
True.
district.
true.
Just
And
because
it's not really any more historically,
it's just cheap.
it's just cheap.
And you're supposed to put the finished side towards your neighbor. Supposed to. So I'm just saying that it's, to me, if we're gonna do it, we just need to,
Just allow it.
yeah.
Let's
But
look
if
at
you
that
wanna
one
do
when it comes
vantage
up.
side with, dog-eared or or a vertical fence, then, well, I mean, we can do that too.
What do you think, Bill? Have you seen this kind of fence before?
I don't remember climbing one.
He just keeps thinking about the kids getting in.
Yeah.
That's right.
I don't know.
There's not that much of it. I think if somebody comes back, we'll look at every one. But like you said, 20,
Well, let me
30
throw this
feet.
at you. What if it were not a shadow box, it was all one side, just like the regular fence just turned it horizontal? Does that make a difference?
I don't think it'd look good. No.
I think the only reason that we're even hesitating at all is because we've never seen it, But I mean, it might look great, I just, we're trying to think what's appropriate, what's historic, and, what's, I don't know. Might be the simplest thing is for this, Bill, you're saying you'd like to review another one if it came forward. I think we're thinking about what can Caroline just say
Yeah.
flat across the board, yeah, that's fine, do it. And
I think if we restrict it to the width of it, I mean, the amount it shows, the depth behind, if it's sitting even with the front of the house, maybe that's gonna be an issue.
well, I think we could
But the
just.
way this one is, I'm thinking that we can restrict it enough to where if someone comes up and wants to put it
We
in
might want to
front
look
of
at
their
it
house,
again.
we might look at it again.
Is there a way to word that's,
That this is reviewed on a case by case.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think most of the time, if this came up again, I'd be happy with you saying, yeah, they can do that, but if it's, sounds like I'm hearing 3 or 4 of us kind of, I might want to look at it again if it was a great long line of it.
That's when it's gonna fight with the neighborhood, I think.
Neighbors may,
Well, I
yeah,
mean, it just doesn't, it's not in keeping with the historic.
yeah, I can see a few neighbors maybe.
There's that fence across from the jail that's very similar.
Yeah. I mean, and if you look at those standards, they allow chain link, they allow vinyl, but they're on secondary. And so what really needs to be defined is at what point does primary move into secondary? How far back is something? Backyard, it's clear, side yard to a point, so then that's where this sort of comes in,
I
at
think
what
this,
point.
yeah, this is so far back, maybe that's what we want.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if what about if they wanted this fence in the front of the house and it's 3 feet off the ground?
I would say no. It's not recessed.
Too noticeable at that point. Anyway, these poor folks are listening to us talk about hypotheticals, but,
Well,
but that's how we have to look at it.
I move that we approve it with what we've been talking about, because
No.
it's so far back, because it's a limited run on the front face.
Yeah.
It's going to be stained, it's not gonna be bright fuchsia, please. I think this is an appropriate spot for it. And
so
then
Lynn, you saying the shadow box can go across the front too?
what I'm seeing on the front side of that fence where
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And-
When you
and-
put your post in the ground, tap the dirt in, do not use concrete on them.
Okay.
This is the lumber man.
Yeah.
Okay.
You didn't know you're gonna get,
You
Yeah.
put your
Building-
fences all over
building your
there,
fence.
it's falling over
Yeah.
because it's in the ground with concrete.
They got rotten.
Yeah.
And what the moisture or the humidity pushes.
And the
it
limestone, the lime in the mix would.
He's a
start-
Sherwin-Williams guy. He knows all that.
I don't know anything about putting in fences. I can stain it, but
He knows about stuff.
other than that, you're.
I bought some paint from you down there last week.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we can help you out with that one,
All right.
and I'm glad you can help me out with this one. So.
Okay, so we want to have a vote on this. Anybody want to?
Lynn made a motion.
Okay, Lynn did. All right. We got a second?
Second.
All right, so
So what is it? What's the
The
motion?
motion was to approve, and the reason is because it's a very limited run and it's very far back on this site.
motion's really just to approve it, but then
Yeah.
Caroline's going to make.
And
a
then I
vote.
put in the agenda, this is why,
Austerity.
because then that tells me what I can do next time if we have it.
Could this be a test case?
Yes. Which is pretty
If
much what it
it's-
is.
we-
It's
And,
not-
and all we're saying is we'll just look at it
Yeah.
if someone wants to do
Okay.
something more.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll have your signed COA off tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank y'all so much.
You are welcome.
You know
The dinner
what?
invitation
Because of
still
what you
hold?
said, because of what you say about the cost, it probably won't come out.
What the price is? Probably go back to dog ears. Bird.
Thank you.
All right, next on a design review guidelines update, number 1 is alternative material use in the district. So all of you have got the samples that I brought you on the Aeritus material. One of the challenges that we have had in the district and with historic districts in general is the adoption of alternative materials, because new materials come on the market, everybody wants them, and then you see within 5 to 10 years that they're not working properly or they have failure issues. And they also, most of them aren't meeting those federal level for tax credit projects in terms of the appearance, the SOI standards. They still warp or they're too shiny. There have been issues with Trex and Hardy Plank in recent years, and so a lot of commissions don't approve those. The commission, you might remember, a few years ago approved synthetic windows for the front of a house on Oak Street as a test case that we were working with. And I've been evaluating since that time what flooring options could be, because we have this very warm, humid climate with lots of termites, and that causes an issue with porch flooring, beadboard ceilings, and shutters that we're seeing within the district. New wood products don't have the strength or longevity of the historic wood, and so in many cases I'm going to these porches and they're not the original porches, they're already replacements, so they're replacing a replacement. Synthetics could not work for an in-kind repair because you can't have multiple materials like that working together on a porch floor, but they could be a viable option for full replacement if it reaches that point, or if an existing porch floor is already a replacement, or for new construction. So I had a lead on this material called Atrius. It's a synthetic wood replacement. It was authorized for use in 2007 at Oak Alley, and Oak Alley is a national landmark site that is a step above National Register. The product was installed in 2009. I reached out to their maintenance director and asked how the material has held up, and they fully replaced all their wood decking on the second floor. The first floor is a brick floor, and the second floor is a wraparound. They worked really closely with Atrius to do an exact match. As a matter of fact, the larger samples that y'all got, that is the exact board size of Oak Alley. That was their template that they used. The smaller one is more for that late 19th and early 20th century ones. Their maintenance director sent me photos of the product, and it's been on for over a decade, and it looks brand new. They think it'll last 30 years, based on what they're seeing. They have 40,000 people a year walk on that floor. And they were even allowed to change the porch underpinnings to reframe it, because it does require additional framing beyond a normal wood porch. And the irony of this is, when I called him over Easter, I was actually in New Orleans visiting Oak Alley, and I stood on that porch, and I did not know at the time it was a synthetic material. I wish I'd known, because I would have gotten on my hands and knees and like poked at it. But I remember standing on the porch going, oh, this looks really good. They must have just painted and refreshed it. I had no idea I was standing on material that was a decade plus old. It was pretty remarkable looking. Atrius also makes synthetic beadboard for porch ceilings and shutters. I reached out to the company. They sent the samples. They are more than welcome. They said they could send someone up if we wanted a meeting, a show and tell one night with the Historic Decatur Association and the Commission to go through more on the product. I know that Gobble Fight can indeed get it, because they said they can ship it there. It has been approved for installation at the Via Carre in New Orleans. So in New Orleans, the historic quarter, it is approved in limited circumstances. Knoxville, Raleigh-Durham, and Albany, Oregon. And I know Huntsville has one that was just approved recently. I have dug and dug, but I have not found negative reviews of the product from any preservation specialists yet. So what I am proposing is an affirmative vote that would allow approval for this product at the administrative level for replacement flooring if the flooring has reached the point that it all has to be replaced, or for new porch flooring, shutters, and replacement or new beadboard ceilings.
I think I asked you before, what is the difference in the cost? I mean, this looks relatively expensive. I mean, I have no idea, and I haven't bought wood recently, so I don't know what wood is. I understand it's expensive too, but
They had told me once it's installed, installation process and everything, they said right now it's actually coming out a couple cents per foot cheaper than wood. But wood prices are completely through the roof right now. So, you know, that could vary.
But it's not outrageous more, it's not outrageous.
That's the sense that I had gotten now. It's, the advantage is it has such longevity on it. So then at that point, you're not entirely comparing apples with apples.
Let me ask you this, if there's certain parameters to which it's be installed, I'm sure they have installation instructions, and
they do.
I mean, should we also put some sort of verbiage in there that, yeah, you can use this product, but be aware that you need to follow the directions? Because I wouldn't want to get into something that we approve a material that they put on their porch and they don't install it with the correct bracing or foundation. It collapsed, and then, you know, they said, well, you told us we could put it on.
No, I mean, that's ultimately on them and their contract. It'd be the same with any of the building materials. I mean, we approve things all the time, but they still have to put it on correctly. Okay. We don't have that caveat.
As long as we could do that, that's okay.
Yeah. So it's like making sure they know how to install the windows or the skylights correctly, and some people don't. then they have issues. And I don't know, I mean, we had 2 people that needed total porch decking replacements in the last month that I did site visits with.
So you want us to give you approval on that?
That I can use it in those limited. Obviously, they can't do a patch. So if they have a porch floor that is mostly okay, that is vintage, you can't patch this in. So this is an all or nothing product. So it would only be for new construction, porches where they've reached the point that they need a complete decking replacement. Or I think porches that we have a couple that they have wood rot on them and they could patch, but the porch is so clearly a 1980s. It's not even remotely historic. Someone just kind of threw it together and put it on there. And they're like, hey, can we replace the whole thing? And I'm thinking, well, yeah, because it's not vintage. I can look at it and tell you somebody put it up really recently. And this has the right profile. It has the right lines on it. It does have to be painted or come pre-finished. Those are their 2 options, because if they buy the unpainted and don't paint it, it doesn't have UV blockers and it turns white like a milk jug over time. So it does have to have paint on it.
Well, I'll make a motion that we allow this in the district then. How about that?
Second.
All in favor?
Oh, no, we're just talking about the flooring. What about the beadboard and the shutters and all of that?
You guys want to discuss beadboard and shutters too?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's of the same quality. Shutters, you know, would be more difficult. The beadboard, I think, would be in line with.
Well, the beadboard's on the ceiling, so I don't,
Did you see the
what's the
beadboard?
advantage?
The beadboard they have on their ceiling is a different brand because they said Atrius hadn't made theirs yet. So they have a synthetic beadboard at Oak Alley too.
Can we, maybe we just do the flooring because that's what we have samples of and that's what we know.
Yeah. The shutters would have to be so many different sizes to be correct.
They custom make.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you want to approve the flooring and then if we have requests for the others to bring it
Yeah.
back in
Yes.
front?
I
Do you want me
think
to
so.
get samples of the other materials? Oh, I guess shutters, I don't know if I can, but I should be able to get samples of beadboard. Would you like
Yes.
them?
Beadboard.
I would think so.
So this is for flooring only and others I can bring in front of the commission when we reach that point.
Yep.
So I can tell property owners it might be an option.
Yeah.
Okay,
think
so John first, Bill second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I have policy question on COA expiration date on guidance. This specifically came from Karen Thomas. As you recall, you approved her addition recently. A COA is typically valid for 1 year and construction is expected to be completed within 18 months. Obviously, the construction business is a little different right now with trying to get materials and items and supply chain issues. So there was discussion on if for maybe the next year or so, if we can expand that to make a COA valid for 2 years and expected to be completed in 30 months.
Rather than do that, what I might suggest is could we say, I don't, you know, keep it valid for 1 year, because I mean, there's a lot of stuff sitting around out here that they don't do it and it doesn't get done and they're not really following the rules. But just say, this is it, if you run into the supply issues, if you've got a problem and you say, hey, I can't get whatever it is I'm waiting on, we can extend it on a case-by-case basis. It's just like everything for 2 years. I think gives us more opportunity to have ongoing construction projects. And I think it's in our best interest, if you're gonna do it and you're coming for COA, let's do it as fast as you can, but we understand that there are issues with the pandemic
Might
and
be
all
even
this.
something we could fast track where they could just say, hey, look, I don't.
Yeah, I don't know that they'd have to come before the commission, but if they've got a valid reason, I think we should be able to say, okay, we'll give you a little bit more time on that. You know, I think we should be flexible enough to do that, rather than just flat out give it 2 years.
Okay. So we're gonna keep it the way it is and just give them some extensions?
Well, no, I mean, well,
I mean, I guess if you don't do it in a year and you come back, is the commission going to take it back up again? I
don't
guess
think it
that's
should.
that's the question.
That's the point, and it might be a new commission.
I think once a COA is issued and they are following it, I don't think it needs to be addressed in another year. I think there needs to be more of a push, and I don't know that we have any teeth for it.
Lynn, what you're saying is that,
Accomplish your job if you can. If you have problems, we understand, but I don't see us redoing it every time that year expires, unless they've changed something or
they haven't even started.
they haven't even started maybe.
I mean, I could see where the construction's taking a little bit longer, you know.
I understand.
It's
If it
going
hadn't started,
to
then
20
yes.
months instead of 18,
Yeah.
then we can extend it, but if they haven't given them 2 years,
So then if you want to do it on a case by case, in this one, they're thinking of not even starting for a year based on prices and supply chain issues.
Which
But the Thomas, but they don't want to come, you know, they don't want to open up the risk of having to represent the entire
Present the whole thing again.
thing again. So that's what they're
I don't blame 'em.
asking. So would a motion to allow an additional year extension, knowing they probably will not start that project for a year because of the challenges they're running into?
My only concern is as long as you don't want somebody to start construction and then your neighbors have to, the neighborhood deal with watching a house take 4 years to be built.
They're not going to start.
Okay. but I'm just
They're
saying.
not, that's their concern, is because right now with everything.
Right. But I see what you're saying. I mean, we don't want to leave the door open to someone got a
Right.
job halfway done. And
I don't
now
think we
it
need
sits
to
like
amend
that.
this for one individual.
I mean, I know building department, building permits only good for a certain amount of time. So really, this is because we got one project out there that they're,
It was
they got a
approved-
COA and
it
then
was
they're gonna
approved
build it
and
for a
they
year.
they're not in a position where they feel that it's prudent to start within the year.
It's not prudent, or they can't get materials.
They're thinking it's not prudent because of cost and material supply chain shortages. So
I
it's
mean,
my
I could see
understanding it's
that
both.
coming up again too, when people start looking at the cost of materials.
But they, okay, I'll discuss this.
Because they're jumping so rapidly that some, I mean, I have contractors that don't even know what to bid right now on things. So, and I think they're also having a hard time getting a builder, which I'm not surprised by, because I was told by a landscaping guy it would take 3 months just to get them to give me a bid. So, and that's landscaping, not even a full construction project, so.
I'm
And
just
the-
not in favor of expanding this. We can say, fine, we'll give you but I think it should be on a case-by-case basis. I see maybe with that one, as much as it took to get the COA, I can see, all right, if you're gonna do the same thing, we've already approved it.
Have
We'll
we
give you
received
another
any
year.
other-
Well, I
But-
think there's a difference. This says due to COVID supply chain issues. To me, that's you get in your project and your windows all of a sudden are a year
Not
out.
that you think, it's too expensive to
But
start.
what we're
with.
talking about here is
It's-
not due to COVID supply
Well, it's a
chain
supply-
issues.
It's a
It's
supply
due
chain
to,
issue, because price is going.
it's due
So
to
that is a
pricing.
supply chain, and supply chain has impacted price.
Did
Yeah,
this
it's
change in a
due to
month?
pricing.
It's been,
2 months?
see, they first submitted in, I think, October of last year. And by the time it went through the process and was approved, it was March. So it has exploded from October to now, and she's having a hard time finding a GC.
So it sounds like we could do it exactly as you have here, or we could just kind of look at the way Lynn's looking at it and just as a case by case. Or we could also just say, this is a temporary reprieve just because, we'll do this right now, but then after that, that'll expire and we won't allow it.
I mean, case by case is fine, but I need to be able to go back to her and be
Yeah.
specific on her case then.
I don't see an
Well,
issue with us
It
renewing
might be
that
that they
COA.
start in 6 months.
I'm
We
sorry,
don't know.
what?
So they might start in 6 months.
None
Well,
of
they
the
might.
none of the contractors she's gotten hold of are able to.
I think.
I'm more in line to just saying, keep it the way it is, and then if they need
am
an
too.
extension,
We'll
just-
give
Okay,
them-
well, that's what they're asking. So what do I tell
does the
them?
building department do when their extension runs out? What do they?
That's different because they pull a permit when they start. In this case, they haven't started. We gave them approval for a design. They have not broken ground on it.
Well, now that
So
may be a way to look at this too. It's just like, have you started the project,
Yeah.
well, they got a year. I mean, I'm a little less inclined to say, it just started, so give me another year. Well, maybe get 8 months down the road, then come back in there and say, hey, I haven't started and I need an extension. I mean, why not,
Could we fast track extensions if people haven't started? Is that a way, something we could do?
yeah, I'm not
Like if
talking
we
about,
within-
I'm not talking about bringing it before the board and having to
Because
reapply
it sounds like,
and do all
I
that.
think that's what Karen's problem is. That's what Karen's scared of.
Well, could be.
She's scared of a new board and having to go through all that again. And I don't blame her for.
I mean, I
thinking
wouldn't have a problem fast tracking as long as what was approved is what they're
Yeah.
going to start. Now, if they've decided that this material is too expensive and I might need to move to this one, then you back up
Oh,
here.
they got.
I mean, I'm probably more concerned with the fact that if I've got a project that can't get off the ground because of cost or whatever, then that project that we just approved gets changed. Then they need to come back.
Yes.
I agree.
So, you know, I mean, just,
I think as long as the project stay here, what we presented to you is what we're going to do. We may have an issue getting this material, or I can't get somebody to build it or something there. I think that could be fast tracked. But yeah, if anything changes,
Do
you know, they can't
we
get-
want to delegate authority to Caroline to just fast track? I mean, to be able to, on her own, okay, yes.
So I should have, the way the fast track process is already written, I have authority to have minor changes in COAs and have been doing so the whole time. So y'all might not remember that because we don't normally talk about it, but I do. And people come up and like, oh, we want to add a small window here, or oh, we want to do this.
I guess I'm just thinking.
So that's already part of the legal,
Yeah.
what has already been
If,
adopted.
like if someone just says, hey, look, I can't get a GC, this is not gonna happen in time, can you give me an extension on the COA? I think you should have the authority to do that.
I think so too.
I mean, is that,
But major change,
that make
any
it-
major change should come before the commission again.
yeah,
And it's already set up to do that.
Okay, yeah.
So then the real question is, they're not going to start within that allotted time based
and
on what they're telling me.
I think
So do I just tell them, like, as long
you're
as
okay.
it doesn't change, I
Yeah.
can reauthorize it?
I think so.
Right.
Okay.
I think as long as you don't.
Because that
make-
part is not clear within our.
If you
stuff.
change the
Okay.
design, if you change materials, anything, then you gotta come forward again, but otherwise, no, you know. You can give however many extensions you want, as long as they stick with the same plan that was approved.
Right.
Does that make sense? I don't know how we vote on that.
Well, I think, let me see.
Just, we could just say grant staff
We just say we're keeping the
authority to.
provision
issue-
as is,
Yeah.
but we are allowing Caroline to fast track an extension
Yeah.
as long as the project has not materially changed.
Sounds good. to me.
Well, but I already have authority to
If you
approve
already have
changes.
authority, we don't even need to
Well,
vote.
So
do you
that's
have
what,
authority to approve of material changes?
yes.
I mean, I'm not talking about materials building. I'm talking about
I'm gonna look
substantial
into see the
changes to
wording.
what they're gonna do.
On, the way it's listed is most changes to previously approved certificates of appropriateness. So it's not talking about an extension, this is just talking about changes.
Changes in the design.
Yeah, so we don't have anything on extensions in here.
So that would be something we could just add.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I'm with John. I think they just need to come back closer to the 12 months and give you an update.
Okay,
But I think, it sounds like they're saying right now, it ain't gonna happen,
yeah.
so.
And that's what has them very stressed, because they're trying to figure out, like, did they get a contractor they're not as keen on who can do it, or do they hold out? You know, do they have to go in and change materials to get it done, or do they hold out?
I think we should allow them to hold out if that's what they want to
I
do.
agree.
But if they want to change it, they need to come back. Unless it's some tiny little tweak or whatever
Okay.
that's.
So do we want to give, how long, you know, right now, in their case, it expires within a year. Do we want to make that COA valid for 2 and then revisit if need be? Because they've essentially said they don't think it's going to start this year.
On this particular
On this
project.
particular project.
That's
What we're
okay.
changing is what's gonna happen when anybody has this issue. It's not just for this particular individual. I have a problem with us changing the rules for one person. Let's say, we've got a year and you've got construction to finish here. We're going to allow fast tracking of, we'll give you another year on your COA. As long as you're not changing anything, fine. We'll give you another year, fast track. So you just have to maybe contact Caroline and say, hey, I'm not gonna do this, I can't make it, can I get an extension? She should be allowed to say, fine, I can do that. I don't see if you're not changing the project why you need to come back before this commission again. But yet if they change something, a material change, something that's gonna make a difference that we might not have approved it had this been what they were gonna do, then I think they need to come back.
Why don't we go ahead and, do we need to vote on consider expanding it for 2 years? Let's go ahead and vote on that.
This is what y'all
Or
want
is
to do.
that, or do we even have to act on this? Looks like somebody's asking this.
Well, it's policy guidance. I mean, they wanted to know what
Okay,
their
well,
options
my vote
were.
would be no.
Okay,
Just
That'd be
keep
my
it the
vote
way it
too.
is, and then, when they get closer to the end, they can re-up it.
Yeah.
That's what would be my consideration,
But I
rather
mean, is
than,
there anything that she could tell these people that are sweating right now?
they're on,
We got a year.
they have a valid
They come back
COA.
with fast tracking, you don't have to come before the commission.
I don't think
That's-
that we're here to say in 9 months, we're gonna make you come back. I mean, they have a valid COA.
Yeah. Well, I think
The only thing that's gonna make it invalid is if they don't carry out what they said they were gonna
that's,
do.
I think that's
all.
what, they just want some peace of mind, is what it sounds like.
because we actually don't have in our standards anything that addresses what happens when that COA expires. It really hasn't come up before. And so
Was it transferable to the next person that comes in?
we don't have that in there.
Well, that's what I mean.
So,
So, you could say, well, I'm gonna sell this land, plus I'm gonna sell you this plan for this house, and you get it transferred to you. It don't work that way.
it works that way with tax credits.
Well,
The rehabilitation tax credits work
I
that way.
wouldn't think it would work that way.
So, because I don't think the commission cares who's building it. They've approved a plan, not a plan built by a specific person. So the thing that I need, because we don't have it, I mean, y'all that were on the commission years ago, we made this list and we decided, how, that's one of the things that's not on the list. And so essentially they're asking, and I'm like, well, I don't actually have, it's not on there. I don't have guidance on that one. So if we want to say, staff has the ability to reauthorize a COA for X amount of time,
Grant extensions.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
I think that's probably the cleanest way to do it.
And it's like with any of these, if I don't get to say no, so if someone comes in front of me and is asking something that I'm like, that could be a problem, I immediately kick it to the full commission.
Yeah, so I mean, that's
So-
what, if.
Which is why y'all got to see a fence tonight. Normally I approve fences all day long, but that one I'm like, no, we're gonna send it to the commission.
Yeah, if someone comes up with something weird, you'll
Yeah.
just won't approve it. So I think we should, so is that something like I could make a motion to grant staff ability to extend?
Yeah, to add that into the COA,
COAs?
yeah, to add that in here.
For an additional year.
For an additional
Mhm.
year?
Right.
Okay, that way it's not open-ended?
Okay.
Okay. Well, I so make that motion then.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. And I will just get that, and I'll get that whole document updated and put on the city's website.
Would you send that to us as well?
Yes, I will send you a link to it as soon as they post it. So tonight, we had a change this afternoon in order on this. Originally, it was going to be a full COA vote on the ball fields. And what we have done is it has been, tonight is a briefing with Q&A, and then the full vote on it will be next month. So that's why it got moved to the bottom, because it's no longer an action item. So I can walk through, I tried to load this, but it was like 76 megabytes, and my Dropbox would not take the new version. This is Delano Park, this is the portion, an aerial view of the ball field. The ball field, it's shown on the Delano Park Master Plan of 2003, so if y'all have looked at that, it's on there. The changes that are being proposed here is the ball field is used quite a bit by the school district, and so they want to add a new building, so batting cage and restrooms and ADA restrooms out of the major sight lines close to the parking lot. Also return a portion of the land to open park space. Existing buildings are non-contributing within the district. There are these concrete block structures that don't particularly harmonize with what is within the park. So the action that the district is requesting is to cover the existing press box and visitors dugout, so the buildings aren't changing, but they're being re-veneered, and removing that sort of faux colonial revival cupola from the top of the press box, which will bring the height down a little bit. The roof shingles changing to match the shingles that are used on other buildings within the park, like the bathhouse. And then this new facility. Let's see if I can get this. That's a plan, but here we go a little bit more with the actual building. So design review guidelines, they're, as we mentioned earlier with the Delano Park Conservancy with the pylon, they're really designed more for residential buildings. But what we do have to work with under new construction is height. The height of new construction should be compatible with historic buildings in the surrounding area. Design, new construction should be architecturally compatible with the historic character of the district, but typically should not seek to replicate historic designs. Materials, new construction should be compatible with adjacent historic buildings in terms of composition, texture, finish of materials. So the recladding of the press blocks and the dugouts brings the structures more in keeping with the neighborhood as a whole, which has lots of, you know, the park has stone, the neighborhood has clapboard and brick. Those are the sort of the three things that you see. The recladding of the press box and the dugouts does bring those structures more in keeping with the neighborhood and the master plan materials. And they're specifically speccing out that horizontal cut stone that's going to match what the Delano Park Conservancy has used. The placement of the new structure is as close as possible to the existing parking lot to ensure that the park vistas are maintained. And we have, did I lose my sheet already? Sally here tonight with the Delano Park Conservancy. I know that they would like to speak. John, did you have anything else you wanted to present or anything that I missed or forgot before they ask questions?
No,
And
I don't think so.
do we have commissioners that have questions? We'll go with commissioners first, that you've looked at this, and if you have any questions on it. Oh, and here is this thing has a name, and I'm already forgetting it. What is this? Backstop. There we go.
That didn't turn out too well.
Yeah, well, this is like, it wouldn't let me put it on the computer because it was so huge. It was such a big file. But any questions from the commission to John in his architect role?
You talking about the Kiwanis field up there?
Yes,
Okay.
And what
we're
I'm
not doing
handing-
anything to the scoreboard. That's not part of it.
And what I'm handing out is from the Delano Park Conservancy. It's just a summary of what Sally's going to say. She just wanted to make sure everybody had it in written form. Yes, thank you.
I know most of you carpool this one.
That's right.
My name is Sally Smart. I'm president of the Delano Park Conservancy, and I have been for the last 21 years. And I'm not the detail person of this group. We all know that, but it's my understanding that the person who is not allowed for technical reasons of however you all operate. So that's why I am here on behalf of that. But I am a supporter of Delano Park, what we've tried to do the last 21 years to protect the park, not only to rehabilitate, preserve and all that, but really to protect the park. And I don't want to be controversial at all about all of this because my objective for Barbara, sorry to mention your name, because that's why these things, I didn't do the request. I'm technically here to present a request for a few minor corrections to the plan that has already been presented for the new construction at the Delano Park softball field. So that is why I'm here. Again, just a quick reference to the protection of the park. Well, maybe I'd better say that. Let me go ahead and do, before I present those things, which Barbara made a copy for everyone, so those are the specifics and those are the details that you all will be going over and questioning as far as the things that Barbara thinks are important. But Barbara felt like it was very important to give a little bit of history. I would think most of you all would know these things, but again, I'm not the detail person, so I'm going to do what I'm told to do. Mainly, the first paragraph, I don't want to just read to you all and bore you to death, but I don't want to miss anything either. But the first paragraph of what I'm supposed to read talks about the fact that Delano Park Conservancy has come before, these are important historical things, has come before the Historic Preservation Commission more than 4 times, I guess in all these 21 years, to approve new construction and landscape development in the park. During those meetings, HPC approved the materials and design to be used in new construction and rehabilitation in the Rose Garden, the Trail of History with its stone monument signs, the splash pad rehabilitation, it's hard to say, the bandstand restoration, River Wild Playground and Garden for All Children with its stone pergolas, et cetera, et cetera. So just to make reference to all of those things, and time again, we have been always in cooperation with the Historic Preservation Commission and wanting to do everything according to what was right. During those HPC meetings, a vocabulary for new construction was developed from the beginning that would use the historic sandstone in a simple and different horizontal rock face style of construction so as not to confuse the viewer in determining original CWA structures and new construction. That probably y'all understand exactly what that means. Delano Park has been under the historic, now this is very important, most of you know this, Delano Park has been under the historic overlay since the beginning of the overlay's existence in the early 1990s. When the new construction on the ball field was done in the late 90s, there was no review by the Historic Preservation Commission and there were no public meetings. It just sort of happened. Park users were surprised by the addition of 2 new chain link fences and modern concrete block buildings in the historic softball field. When Friends of Delano Park was formed in 2000, its specific mission was to develop a master plan that would guide any new construction as well as restoration of Delano. The master plan states that stone, concrete, and brick, which was used for paths, are appropriate building materials. The plan discourages the use of wood because it adds a level of maintenance that is expensive and difficult for a parks department to maintain. Stone is enduring, which is evidenced by the CWA structures that remain in Delano. Delano Park Conservancy, again, has worked hard to follow the guidance of the HPC. The COA for an 8th Avenue gateway, and Barbara referred to that earlier with those photographs, which we had, gone in with our grand dream and the big thing, and it just wasn't appropriate. And Caroline pointed that out, which was fine because we want to be in compliance. So with that said, Barbara, should I read, well, I need to know. Do I need to read these, or you all have them before you? Would you want me now? You all are the ones that are going to have to discuss them, but I'll be happy to read them and let you ask questions, but Barbara can't answer questions. I don't understand the protocol because I know nothing about details. I mean, we all know that.
So I checked with
advise me how I should proceed.
I checked with legal, as long as Barbara does not go up on the dais, up here, she can speak if there's.
I told Barbara this morning when she asked me to do this, I said, I don't mind, but I've never have liked trying to say something that I really didn't know what I was talking about. But I can read. And so I am going to do number 1, remove the flared, and then if there are any questions, remove the flared stone bases in the new construction of the locker rooms / batting cages and the rehab of the existing structures. This is confusing for the viewer and is not the simple, straight construction approved by past HPCs and used throughout the park for new construction. There is no flared stone used in Delano Park, and this design element is not prevalent in Alabama WPA parks.
Done.
Excuse me?
Done.
I was gonna ask what, I'm not seeing the flared
Done.
stone
Well,
in the design.
yes, we've done other parks in Decatur, and that was a detail that were in, that were in other parks, so.
Does
we
that mean
take
you're
out.
ready for number 2?
Go, number 2.
In order to ensure that the stonemasons have guidelines for laying and selecting the stone, please request that the stone be patterned after the 6th Avenue entrance sign.
Absolutely, it will be done.
Okay,
You can go to number 3.
okay. There is no precedent for wood siding combined with stone in historic buildings or new construction in Delano Park. Wood adds a level of maintenance, and we've referred to that before, for the park department that stone does not. We request that stone be used instead of wood on the new construction where at all possible. Stone is a material used for historic buildings and new construction in Delano Park. Any question?
Actually, I do have a question on that one, because I wasn't sure as staff. John, the school district maintains these buildings, or does the park district maintain them?
I would assume that I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea.
Barbara can answer.
Okay.
But when I talked to Dr. Douglas, he's going to make sure the park department is responsible.
Okay.
I think they call it an agreement, not really an MOU, but an agreement that, nothing can be damaged, but everything will be taken care of.
Okay.
The park department owns the buildings, not.
Any other questions on that one? And number 4, 9 signs attached to the new construction of one building, even if they are removable, is excessive. Does the tennis team leave their signs and banners up when they are not playing or practicing at Point Mallard? Is there any precedent for this in Decatur parks? Because the new construction of the locker room batting cages is much larger than any existing historic building or other new construction currently in Delano Park except for Fort Decatur, it's very important to be responsive to the request of an organization representing a community of people that has raised the $3 million that has made the coming back of the park possible. I can't pronounce that, Renaissance. Is there any comment? Because I have a comment.
Where are the 9 signs?
Excuse me?
Look at, where are the 9 signs?
Where are the 9 signs, Barbara?
I just put those
Okay,
in
so
there. I mean,
they're signs instead of,
Those are removable signs that will be left up like for 5 months and will come down after 5 months. And this is, I guess this is a removable sign.
yeah, every one of them.
All removable
Every one of them
signs.
would be removable.
But
Yeah.
in other parks that the school uses, they don't put their signs up until the day of the event. That's our rule in the park. We've never done this for anybody before.
So I think that
Especially not-
item is not under the commission's jurisdiction. That item needs to be taken up with the park and the school
Even though it's
district,
attached to the building.
because they're removable, and we don't have anything in our design review guidelines that address that at all, because they're not. So that's, and I think it's because our design review guidelines are written for residential, obviously, so we don't deal with signage on houses. But when I look through that, like, I'm not seeing anything that gives them, especially since they're removable, that gives them authority to rule on that. So I would
Seems
say.
like somewhere it should say Delano Park.
Yeah.
And
No, I
that's,
think
you
it would
know,
be
in
good,
addition.
yeah, to update the design review
Would
standards for that.
Delano Park need to be a removable sign too?
Whatever you want.
Oh,
Whatever you want. But, I just think whether there's one or two or whatever, 9 is a lot. And it's used like a decorative element. I see how that works. But in all the other buildings, except for the Gators, which is gonna be rehabilitated someday, there is a separate sign, you know, for all the other buildings. Even Land and Water has their separate low sign. So, you know, I just think it's a little much, but for Delano Park. But this is the flare.
Yeah.
There's a flare, you can see it more in person than you can.
Okay,
You
yeah.
go look at the different, buildings. I went to the tennis building today and they have the same flare. And I asked the man there, did they put up any signs for the girls who play? Austin plays there, Decatur plays there, Decatur Heritage play there. They don't put up any signs. So they have one sign that is for Decatur tennis, with all these names of donors. So that's just my thought. And that's not a deal killer, it's just my thought. What's right and what's not right about it, because it is Delano Park, it's not Decatur High School. But they are going to allow other people to use it during the rest of the year, hopefully with with somebody's permission. They can't just go use it like they used to could. But now they will get, you know, permission. But during their season, from what I understand, nobody can go in there. I don't think anybody can use it during their season. But after the season, there'll be an opportunity. This is a big change for that to happen. So anyway, we just want every building to be accessible to all the people in Decatur, not just a few, not just exclusive. But that is park policy and city policy. It's not anything to do with the Historic Preservation Commission, so it's really not your decision about that. But I just
And I'm gonna just close with this quick thing. I wasn't trying to be personal, but we all know this has been a controversial thing, all in the Daily, and the Daily called me and asked what I thought, did I want them to do it or not do it? And I said, well, you know, that's not really the issue with me. I mean, who could be against Decatur High? And who could be against wanting them to have the best they could have? But I said, you know, I tried to explain, you know, that whole reason 21 years ago that we tried to organize was because this was happening all over the country. People just like the Girl Scout Old House, well, you know, they're not using that over there. Well, that's not, there's nothing wrong with that. It's adjacent to Decatur High. Why wouldn't they do it? And nobody said don't do it. And naturally, they're already there and they want to do. But my thing is, and I said to the Daily, and I said, now don't quote me and say I don't want them to. That's like against motherhood and apple pie. I said, that's not what I'm saying, but I would like to hope that that's an opportunity for Decatur High to find their own property, and we've met with them twice since the whole concept of a new Decatur High. We met with the powers that be, but the powers that be have changed since then. But when we heard they might relocate, we wanted to make sure that if they did relocate, that they would take their ball field with them. And then when several years later they made the decision to stay, we again talked to them, and they sort of more or less said, well, yes, we're going to not do it now, but we're going to have some property of our own to do that. So we've tried to present our case, and it just came as a little bit of a, not a surprise, but it's understandable. But anyway, I guess it is controversial.
I do have one thing.
But thank you.
I do have one thing I'd like to say about the wood and the stone combination. The difference in what we were thinking and the people that have been part of this, like the landscape architect and all, is that Delano Park is a separate thing. It's not really a blend of the neighborhood. It is representative of CWA in Decatur. That's a special style, And we never thought about the park blending with the neighborhood. That's not what we want to do. We want it to be really standing out, because that was the whole design. You can look in, it's unique. It's totally unique from the neighborhood. There's this stone is used in the neighborhood, but really not in the way it's used in the park. It's almost like a piece of art. So that's why we would like for it to have it all consistent, and that's just the way we've approached it forever. And let me just tell you about the stone, that bandstand. Andy, growing up, they used to take that stone building, the fire department came and they shot their water at it as an exercise, and nothing hurts it. I mean, it's really impervious. You can take sandpaper, you can grind it off. When you get graffiti, you know, it really doesn't hurt it. It hurts the patina a little bit, but it will still be there. It will still be there 100 years from now. It hasn't been repointed. Now, the Rose Garden wall has, but the rest of the buildings have not. So the Rose Garden wall has irrigation, and it gets too much moisture. But anyway, it's very enduring. And we just wanted you to consider having a permanent stone of some kind, which we prefer sandstone or limestone, in these areas that where it shows.
By the way, I sure do appreciate what y'all do. I really do. I live in Albany, and I'm so thankful for this historic group, and I'm so thankful that the city hired Caroline. We do appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity. Can we go? Can I go? Is it okay? It's okay. It's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is gonna come up next month.
We're gonna work with
This
next month.
will,
I'm gonna forget all this for next month.
yes, this will come up next month. And it looks like at this point, we already knew that the stone was gonna match. And at this point, it looks like the flare will vanish. And then John will represent on behalf of the district what they're looking for at that point. Any other questions on this before we move on to the next one?
Is the signage gonna come up next time or no?
We don't have a way to really review signage. That's not our purview, because it's not a permanent part of the building, and it's not listed within our design review guidelines. So there's certainly, and I mentioned this to them, they can certainly talk to the park district and to the school district about that, but it's not really within this commission's review. Now, if it was like permanent signage, like a part of the building where, you know, it was like etched into it or something, then that becomes different, I think. But this is sort of like someone's hanging a banner on a building, basically, which it's just that it's a
Well,
flush
if
banner.
it's a permanent design element.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, so. Because I mean, I went digging and looking, and I wasn't, if it was a commercial district, there is review on signage in commercial. On staff updates for y'all, why am I not seeing this? Oh, I have a few. Madden, she was out of compliance last year. This was the house on Wilson. She brought it back into compliance. That's the one where the window openings were shrunk. And they did the window boxes, and so they put back what was there, essentially. So it wasn't an upgrade or a change, but it was put back what was there. Sherman Street, Coleman, there's nothing new to report on that one yet. That one is slowly moving through. Sandifer, which is the one on Line Street, where she removed the original front door and transoms, she has met with a restoration carpenter who thinks he can put the pieces back together again.
They are working on, as we speak, on that house.
Okay. On on the door, is that what they're working
No,
on?
they're not really working on the door, I don't think.
What are they working on?
There's something down, they may be replacing wood or something, I don't know. They've been working, they desodded and done.
Then on the former Hennessy house, I unfortunately do not remember the names of the current owners. That's the one on Walnut that Hennessy sold out of compliance. A second certified letter was sent, and they have not responded to that letter. So the next step is a court summons. And then 619 Johnston, that was Ms. Shelton with the fence. She actually did receive a court summons. That one has been brought into compliance, although not the way the commission had requested. But it is technically within the letter of the law, so we have pulled that one from the docket. Tax credit updates, nothing new yet on any of those. Still waiting to see if there's going to be any activity at 722 Ferry. I've had some more requests for tax credits, but I haven't met with people on site yet. There's just been discussions on the phone for possible ones. Oh, I missed one on compliance. Most of you are aware of this. We've discussed it. This is on Church Street. This is Mr. Dickey's house. He removed his entire front porch flooring and porch supports. And so here you see the ones on the trailer getting ready to be hauled away. These are the new ones. There was a stop work order put in. Here's the trailer with the materials. And he did come up to the office and then said that, well, the work was already done. And I was like, okay, well, go ahead and give me a COA. Let's discuss. Let's see what the materials were. But he hasn't responded. So the next step on this one is a certified letter.
Still mad about Karen Thomas. He's been working on that house for a long time.
Yeah.
Putting stuff on his front.
Well, I've talked to him twice, so I've encouraged him to submit a COA, and I think he will. But.
Yeah. Well, and this is one, do you know what the porch flooring is? Is it Trex? Do you know what his porch flooring is? I
No,
don't
I
think
have
it's
no idea.
wood.
It's tracks.
Yeah. Which is something the commission has historically not approved, so that'll be a question. The porch supports, what he's doing is he matched the ones that he put with commission approval on the back. The ones on the back were put in that design so they would be clearly not historic. So what is on there is different than what was removed. So I can send a certified letter on this one, or if the commission just wants me to take no additional action, I can do that as well. But the next step, based on our guidelines, is the certified, our standards or certified letter.
Sounds like he needs jacking up a little bit.
I go ahead and follow through with the procedure that you normally have.
Okay. All right, then I will follow through with procedure. The Decatur 2020 publication and coloring contest went well. We have a winners. You've probably seen them hanging downtown on 2nd and on Bank Street. It's like 150 of those. That was a lot. Have an update on the townhouse on Bank Street, Old Decatur. Remember, they had originally come in on those townhouses with the casement windows that had the false muntins in the upper half. They're having supply chain issues and costs are going up, so I approved double hung windows instead that are plain, and that's what's the last COA that I saw from them. Bank Street, Old Decatur resurvey, I've not heard back from the consultant on that lately. I'm still waiting to hear from the state on CLG grants for 2020-2021, which is that leftover money they said they had, but they haven't gotten back to us on that yet. City Council did approve us getting those and matching them if they are awarded. And the Historic Decatur Association has agreed to pay for the match on the window workshop if we get that funding. And Rick Paler's organization has agreed to pay for $500 worth of the pamphlets if we get that funding too. CLG grants for 2021-22, I put in 3. One for the Princess Theater HS Historic Structures Report, one for the Delano Park Historic Structures Report, and one to resurvey the Albany commercial and look at a boundary expansion. I have been told by the state they received more applications than they have funding for, and that they will likely fund one of the historic structure reports for us, and the other one we can resubmit the following year. So I assume, I haven't seen the paperwork yet, that it's going to be Princess Theater, because that one has more needs currently, because we have stucco and window issues with that building that need to be addressed. And we need to look at, last time I told you guys to have some dates for that board retreat and planning for the next fiscal year. So probably half a day. Location will be determined. I assume people are going to want it to be on a Saturday or Sunday. I expect my inbox to have emails from every last one of you with 3 or 4 potential dates throughout the next few months, because I have to set my budget in about 2 months or so.
Before the end of the fiscal year, when do we want to get them done? What's the window?
We need to have this meeting in by the end of July. So I will be harassing you via email if I do not have emails, and I know where all of you live. So I will track you down if needed. But we do need to sort of, and just be thinking longer term in terms of other projects, other initiatives. The National Register Coordinator for the state was here 2 weeks ago. She was very interested in a lot of the post-World War II architecture on 6th Avenue, a possible resource nomination on that. And we also looked around Eastwood and Walter Jackson Elementary. And we also went and looked at Fulmar and Flynn Development, Western Gardens, which is over near the Aquadome. And she was very impressed with that too. So those are things we have on our radar as well. Anything else? Anything I missed? Any questions?
Move we adjourn?
Yeah.
Now that you're sort of adopting the doors for the school, softball field, can we just use that same thing at the bathhouse, maybe at the historic bathhouse? I mean, that's what you had to start with, and now we've got it in this building, and it's been torn, I mean, it's been messed up for 2 years, and we got kicked in. Of course, it probably wasn't the strongest group yet, but I would love for it to match this. It's gonna be just on the same street, down the street. They still don't have it fixed, and it's still there. It's gonna have to open this week with the splash pad. And, you and Caroline are gonna have to, John and Caroline are gonna have to come up with what we should do.
I think,
Now that we have this, it seems to me it'd be good to have this at both places. If you want to do this.
I think we can make that work.
I mean, I don't think the park department's gonna ever do anything, and we've got to do something.
Any other questions? We have a motion to adjourn from Lynn. Do we have a
Motion
second?
to adjourn.
All right.
All in favor? All right.
All right.